If you have been seeing posts saying Google is hiring H-1B sponsored AI engineers right now, stay with me because there is a lot of opportunity here and also a lot of confusion. In the next few minutes, I am going to do three things. First, break down what this Google AI role appears to be and what the requirements really mean. Second, explain how H-1B sponsorship usually works in plain English, including the LCA step people keep misunderstanding. And third, give you a practical apply now checklist so you can move fast without making mistakes that create delays, denials, or missed deadlines. Here is the part most people miss. A job posting that mentions visa sponsorship or a company that filed thousands of LCAs does not automatically mean your individual case is simple. It means there is a process and you need to match it. So what is the role we are talking about? The brief we got describes a senior software engineer focused on AI and search discovery, based in Mountain View, with requirements like around 5 years of Python experience and around 3 years in ML infrastructure. It also says there is a strong preference for a master's or PhD, and it hints that this could be perfect for an EB1 path. I want to slow that down for 1 second. The job itself may be real, but the immigration implications depend on your profile, your current status, and the exact internal team and timing. Big tech hiring is not one pipeline, it is many pipelines. Now, if you are an AI engineer, this is why the role is interesting. Search discovery and AI platform work often sits right at the intersection of large-scale production systems and machine learning. That tends to mean distributed infrastructure, reliability, model serving, data pipelines, experimentation, and increasingly, LLM-related work like retrieval, ranking, personalization, and evaluation. And yes, keywords like reinforcement learning, or LLMs, can matter for ATS and recruiter search. But you have to use them in a credible way, tied to measurable outcomes. We will talk about that in a minute. Now let us talk about the H-1B piece, because this is where people either waste months or they set themselves up well. In plain English, H-1B is a U.S. work visa for specialty occupations. For most people, that means a job that normally requires at least a bachelor's degree in a specific field, and a worker who has the relevant degree or equivalent. The employer is the one that files, and there are multiple steps. One of the big early steps is the LCA, the Labor Condition Application, filed with the Department of Labor. The LCA is basically the employer saying, here is the job location, here is the wage level, here is the wage we will pay, and we will follow the labor condition rules. An approved LCA is not an H-1B approval. It is a prerequisite step that often comes before the H-1B petition filed with USCIS. Microhook. If you only remember one thing, remember this. LCA volume shows activity, not guaranteed outcomes. The brief says Google filed nearly 9,000 LCAs last year. That is plausible as a scale signal for a large employer. And what it usually tells you is that the company has established internal systems for immigration compliance and a high volume of roles where they may sponsor. But it does not tell you whether they will sponsor for a specific role, at a specific level, on a specific team, for your start date. It also does not tell you if your case will be cap subject, cap exempt, a transfer, an amendment, or something else. So who is actually affected by this kind of opportunity? Let us break it into clear buckets. Bucket 1. You are currently outside the US and you need an H-1B to start work. In that case, timing is everything. Many employers are open to sponsorship, but your start date may depend on the H-1B cap season and lottery if the role is cap subject. Bucket 2. You are already in the US on H-1B with another employer, and you are looking for an H-1B transfer. This can be faster because you may already be counted toward the cap, and in many situations, you can start with the new employer after the new petition is filed, not necessarily after it is approved. But details matter, so treat that as general information and verify for your case. Bucket 3. You are in the US on F1, especially OPT or STEM OPT, and you are trying to bridge to H-1B. You have real work authorization now, but you are racing against your OPT end date and the annual cap timeline. Bucket 4. You are on another status like O1, L1, TN, or dependent status with work authorization, and you are considering an employer-sponsored path either now or later. The strategy can be different. Now, who is not affected, or at least should not build their plan around this? People who assume that any Google job automatically includes sponsorship. Some teams do, some do not, and it can vary by location, headcount, and business need. People who assume an EB1 is automatic because the job prefers a master's or PhD. EB1 is a specific immigrant category with high standards, and the phrase "perfect for EB1" is more like marketing than a guarantee. Also, people who think that if the company filed many LCAs, they can skip the fundamentals like degree match, specialty occupation alignment, and clean documentation. This is where people get denied. The basics are not boring, they are the foundation. Now, let us address the question, why is this happening now? Why are we seeing renewed talk about H-1B sponsorship and AI hiring? A few reasons tend to overlap. 1. AI and ML infrastructure roles are hard to fill because they require both software engineering depth and ML systems exposure. 2. Big tech often runs evergreen pipelines for senior roles, even when the overall market feels mixed, because the cost of not hiring key talent is high. 3. Immigration timing forces planning. If a company wants a candidate in seat by a certain quarter, they may need to line up the visa timeline months earlier. And 4. There is a practical compliance reason. Big companies tend to standardize processes. That can make sponsorship more common, but it also makes screening stricter. Microhook. The same system that makes sponsorship possible also makes weak applications disappear fast. Now, let us talk about what the requirements in the brief likely signal. 5 years in Python is less about the language itself and more about proving you can build production systems, write maintainable code, handle testing, and contribute to code reviews at scale. 3 years in ML infrastructure is usually code for experience with things like model training pipelines, data tooling, feature stores, serving infrastructure, monitoring, evaluation frameworks, A/B testing, and performance optimization. If the role is close to search, you may also see ranking systems, retrieval, relevance, and large-scale experimentation. The master's or PhD preference is often about depth in ML concepts and research literacy, but it is not always required if you have strong equivalent industry experience. Now, a quick myth versus reality, because this is where anxiety spikes. Myth: if Google sponsors H-1B, they will sponsor everyone who applies. Reality: sponsorship is usually role-specific and candidate-specific. Even if the company sponsors broadly, the recruiter and hiring manager still have to justify the hire and align the job with the immigration classification. Myth: if you get an interview, the visa part is handled automatically. Reality: the visa part is a parallel track. Your recruiter may ask about work authorization and timing early because headcount planning depends on it. Myth: if you have an AI title, you qualify. Reality: eligibility is about specialty occupation and your credentials matching the role, plus the employer following process. Next, let us talk real-world consequences, because this is where the stakes are. Start dates. For cap subject H-1B cases, the lottery and filing windows can influence when you can start. Travel. Changing employers or statuses can complicate travel timing, especially if you need stamping or you have a pending petition. Work authorization gaps. F1 OPT holders are the most vulnerable to gaps if timing slips, and H-1B holders can face problems if they stop working without a plan. And paperwork. Offer letters, job descriptions, location details, and wage levels matter more than most people realize because they show what the job is and where it is performed. Small detail that changes everything. Work location. A Mountain View role may be tied to an office presence or a specific worksite address. Location influences wage levels and LCA details. If you plan to be remote from another state, that can change the compliance steps. so do not assume you can negotiate location later without consequences. Now I want to give you 2 example scenarios. These are composite examples, not legal advice, but they mirror what people deal with. Example Scenario 1. You are on F1 STEM OPT, working as an ML engineer at a mid-size company. You see the senior software engineer AI role at Google. You have 4 years of experience, including internships, and you have strong LLM fine-tuning projects. Your risk is timing and level fit. Senior roles often expect leading projects, designing systems, mentoring, and owning production reliability. Your best move is to position your experience as senior in scope. Shipped systems, measurable latency or cost improvements, reliability metrics, and cross-functional leadership. At the same time, you should have a realistic plan B for H-1B timing, because even with a strong company, cap timing can be unforgiving. Example Scenario 2. You are currently on H-1B at another tech company. You get traction with a Google recruiter. Your risk is the transition window and maintaining status. People hear you can start work as soon as a transfer is filed, and often that is directionally true, but you still need to avoid quitting too early or creating a gap without understanding your situation. Coordination matters. Offer, background check, petition preparation, filing, and start date all need to line up. If you are near the end of your current employment or in a grace period, the margin for error is small. Here is the part most people miss. The best candidates treat the immigration timeline like a project plan, not a surprise. Now, what should you do right now if you want to maximize your chances for this kind of Google AI role and you need sponsorship? I am going to give you a practical checklist in a do this versus avoid this format. Do this. Tailor your resume for ATS and for humans. ATS scanning is real, but your resume still needs to read cleanly. Use the exact language from the job description where it is true for you. Python, ML infrastructure, model serving, data pipelines, ranking, retrieval, LLMs, reinforcement learning, evaluation, monitoring. But attach proof. Example, built model serving platform handling X requests per second, reduced P95 latency by Y%, cut inference cost by Z%. Do this. Lead with impact, not tools. Tools are secondary. Recruiters screen for outcomes. Put your strongest 2 or 3 impact bullets at the top of each role. Do this. Clarify work authorization and timing in a calm, professional way when asked. Do not over-explain. A simple line like, "I will require employer sponsorship for H-1B, and I can share timing based on my current status," is usually enough for an initial screen. Do this. Prepare your document basics early. Not to file anything yourself, but to avoid delays when the employer asks. That includes passport validity, degree documents, transcripts if available, prior immigration approval notices if you have them, and an accurate employment history. If you have multiple degrees or foreign education, be ready to provide clear records. Do this. Treat the job location discussion as important. If the role is listed as Mountain View, expect questions about on-site or hybrid expectations, and understand that location changes can affect compliance steps. Do this. Use referrals strategically. A referral does not guarantee anything, but it can help your resume get looked at by a recruiter faster. Pair it with a strong, tailored resume. Now, avoid this. Do not spam apply to 50 Google roles with the same generic resume. That can dilute your candidacy, and it often signals you do not know what you are targeting. Pick 2 to 4 roles that truly match your background and tailor for each. Avoid this. Do not stuff keywords you cannot defend. If you write reinforcement learning, be ready to explain what algorithm you used, what reward function, how you evaluated, and what production constraints existed. If you cannot explain it, do not list it. Avoid this. Do not make irreversible immigration moves based on social media hype. Do not quit your job early. Do not overstay. Do not assume a transfer will be filed in time. Always confirm timelines with the employer and, if needed, a qualified attorney. Avoid this. Do not ignore the leveling signal. If a role is senior and your experience is more early career, you can still apply, but you should also apply to roles that match your level to keep your odds realistic. Now, a second myth versus reality, because it directly affects your strategy. Myth: if a company filed thousands of LCAs, they are guaranteed to have an H-1B slot for you. Reality: the LCA is not a slot. It is a compliance step tied to a job and a location, and for cap cases, the lottery still exists. Myth: master's or PhD preference means EB1 is easy. Reality: advanced degrees can help your profile, but EB1 is a separate analysis, and many employment-based green card paths start with other steps depending on the category. If you are hearing EB1 in a job post context, treat it as aspirational, not automatic. Let us talk about what to watch next, because timing is where people win or lose. Watch point 1. Recruiting timelines. If you need cap subject H-1B, ask early what start date and immigration track is realistic. You do not need to negotiate visa details in the first email, but you do need clarity before you make life decisions. Watch point 2. Demand surges. When a role goes viral, the number of applicants spikes, and the bar for the resume screen goes up. That is why tailoring matters. Watch point 3. Processing and internal prep time. Even if USCIS processing can be upgraded with premium processing in some cases, the employer still needs time to prepare the case. Watch point 4. Policy updates. Immigration policy and agency guidance can change. The safe move is to monitor official sources like USCIS and the Department of Labor for general rules and updates, and rely on your employer and attorney for case-specific steps. Before we wrap up, I want to give you a simple ATS keyword plan that is safe and effective. Think in 3 layers. Layer 1, Role Core. Python, software engineering, distributed systems, ML infrastructure, model serving. Layer 2, Domain, search, ranking, retrieval, recommendations, discovery, relevance, experimentation. Layer 3, Modern AI, LLMs, evaluation, fine-tuning, RLHF if and only if you have done it, safety or guardrails if relevant, monitoring and observability. Then attach metrics to at least half your bullets. That is what turns keywords into credibility. Final microhook. The fastest way to stand out is not a fancy template. It is measurable impact plus a resume that matches the job language. Now a final recap so you can take action without panic. 1. Google hiring and high LCA volume can be a real signal that sponsorship is possible, but it is not a promise for every role or every candidate. 2. Understand the H-1B basics. LCA is a step. USCIS petition is a step, and timing depends on whether you are cap subject, transferring, or changing status. 3. The people most affected are F1 OPT holders and cap subject candidates because timing can create gaps. H-1B transfers often have more flexibility, but still need careful coordination. 4. Tailor your application. Use ATS keywords like LLMs and reinforcement learning only when true, and always tie them to outcomes and metrics. 5. Avoid generic mass applications and avoid making irreversible decisions based on hype. Build a plan, verify details, and move step by step. If you want the full report mentioned in the brief, including interview question themes and application strategy, comment Google below. And if you want more calm, practical updates on USCIS, H-1B, green cards, and travel rules, subscribe and turn on notifications so you do not miss the next update.